Hello, this is my podcast, Mind Matters Understanding Mental Health Through a Biosocial Lens. My podcast is understanding the biological and social determinants of mental health. Hi, everyone. My name is Selena, and thank you for joining me for my podcast for Mind Matters Understanding Mental Health Through a Biosocial Lens. I'm glad that you're joining me for our first episode. Mental health is something that affects us all, whether personally or through someone we know, yet many people still believe mental health challenges are caused by just one factor. The truth is much more complex. Mental health is shaped by our biology, our life experiences, and the environments in which we live. Today, we'll discuss biological and social determinants of mental health, explore how the brain influences mental illnesses, and examine a treatment approach that addresses both biological and psychosocial needs, and explain why understanding these concepts is so important in social work practice. So let's get started. Biological determinants of mental health. It is referred to physical and genetic factors that influence a person's mental health. The first determinant is the genetics. Research shows that many mental health disorders, including depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and anxiety disorders, have hereditary components. This does not mean that someone will automatically develop a mental illness if a family member has one. Instead, genetics can increase vulnerability, making individuals more likely to experience mental health challenges when combined with stressful life experiences or environmental factors. For example, someone with a family history of depression may have a higher risk of developing depression after experiencing a traumatic event, chronic stress, or significant loss. The second biological determinant is chronic physical illness and inflammation. Conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and chronic pain are associated with increased rates of depression and anxiety. Chronic illness can affect brain chemistry, hormone regulation, and daily functioning, making it more difficult for individuals to maintain emotional well being. Physical illnesses and mental health often influence one another, creating a cycle that can be difficult to break without comprehensive treatment. Understanding these biological influences will remind us that mental health conditions are real medical concerns rather than personal weaknesses. Um, a little backstory on me personally: I have a heart disease called prolonged QT syndrome, and it has changed me ever since I was a little girl. I think I went from being this very extravagant, extraordinary person to kind of like letting my heart disease um, take over who I am, and that's not real to who I want to be. So I think starting at a young age, when knowing that I had my heart disease, um, I think I stopped being real to myself and true to myself. And unfortunately, I think I did over the past years become. I had a lot of anxiety, and I have a lot of depression, and so now I'm overcoming that. I'm 26 years old, and so now I'm learning to better help myself and go to therapy and find better treatment styles for myself to overcome what it means to have a heart disease or some sort of condition that reflects on what it means to have mental health issues. But that does not determine on who I am or who I want to be. It just means that it's something that I have to work on. So now let's look at the social determinants that influence mental health. Social determinants are the conditions in which people are born, grow, work, live, and age. One important determinant is economic stability. Individuals experiencing poverty, unemployment, or financial insecurity often face chronic stress. Financial hardship can limit access to health care and nutritious foods, stable housing, transportation, and counseling services. These barriers increase the likelihood of anxiety, depression, and other mental health disorders. Children exposed to abuse, neglect, household violence, substance misuse, or parental mental illnesses are at increased risk for developing depression, anxiety, post traumatic stress disorder, and substance use disorders later in life. A third social determinant is social support and community connections. People with supportive families, friendships, and community resources often recover more successfully from mental health challenges. On the other hand, loneliness and social isolation increase the risk of depression, anxiety, and suicide. Simply having someone who listens without judgment can significantly improve emotional well being. A social worker's understanding these social influences allow us to identify barriers that clients may face beyond their symptoms. Um, And to piggyback off of that, I want to say that allowing someone in your life who is a professional that allows you to listen and give you professional feedback has been, for me anyways, has been the best thing I could have done for myself, I think, for my mental and physical well-being. Um, and that's one reason, I had a lot of people in my life that encouraged the therapy, and I'm glad that I did it, because now I'm starting to become who I am and who I want to be, and what this life I want to make, and I'm really happy that I'm taking a positive outlook on my life. For brain structures and neurotransmitters, our brains play an incredible role in regulating emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. One important brain structure is the amygdala. The amygdala helps process fear and emotional responses. In anxiety disorders and post-traumatic stress disorder, it can become overactive, causing individuals to perceive danger even in relatively safe situations. This heightened activity contributes to excessive worry, panic attacks, and hypervigilance. Another important brain structure is the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for decision making, impulse control, emotional regulation, and problem solving. Depression, trauma, and chronic stress can reduce activity in this area, making it more difficult for individuals to manage emotions and make thoughtful decisions. Neurotransmitters also play central roles. One neurotransmitter is serotonin. Serotonin helps regulate mood, sleep, appetite, and emotional stability. Low serotonin levels have been associated with depression and anxiety, which is one reason selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, are commonly prescribed to treat those disorders. Another neurotransmitter is dopamine. Dopamine influences motivation, reward, pleasure, and learning. Imbalances in dopamine are linked to disorders such as schizophrenia, depression, and addiction. Too much dopamine activity in certain brain regions has been associated with psychotic symptoms, while too little dopamine can contribute to reduced motivation and low mood. Although neurotransmitters are only one part of the picture, they demonstrate how biological processes directly influence mental health. Integrated treatment approach. One treatment approach that effectively combines biological and psychosocial factors is the biosocial model, using cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, alongside medication management when appropriate. CBT helps individuals identify negative thinking patterns, develop healthier coping strategies, and change behaviors that contribute to emotional distress. At the same time, medication may help stabilize brain chemistry when symptoms significantly interfere with daily functioning. Social workers also assess environmental stressors such as housing instability, financial concerns, family relationships, employment, and community resources. Um, this comprehensive approach recognizes that successful treatment requires addressing the whole person, but not just the symptoms. But why does this matter in social work? So, as social workers, understanding biological and social determinants, it will allow us to provide more effective, compassionate, and culturally responsive care. Rather than asking what's wrong with this person, we begin asking what has happened to this person and what factors are affecting their health. This perspective reduces stigma while promoting empathy and understanding. It also encourages collaboration with physicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, nurses, and community organizations to meet clients' diverse needs. When social workers recognize both biological vulnerabilities and environmental challenges, they can advocate for better health care access, housing, education, employment opportunities, and policies that reduce health disparities. Ultimately, mental health care becomes more holistic, equitable, and effective. As we wrap up today's episode, remember that mental health is influenced by much more than just individual choices. Genetics, brain function, physical health, relationships, income, housing, and community support all contribute to our overall well being. By understanding these biological and social determinants, we become better equipped to support ourselves, our loved ones, and our communities. Thank you so much for listening to the very first episode of Mind Matters, Understanding Mental Health Through a Biosocial Lens. I hope that you join me again as we continue exploring important topics in mental health and social work. Until next time, take care of yourself and support those around you. And remember that asking for help is a sign of strength.